Hello. So here's some additional information about purchasing a home. Remember, we're on the second video for section 18.1. Closing costs can include all kinds of things, and you can read that here. Sometimes you pay for some points, which reduces your interest, but you're paying for some of that up front. And often closing costs will run into, $5,000 or so just to be able to close your mortgage. The escrow amount I talked about earlier when I was talking about putting in 1/12 of your insurance amount and 1/12 of your real estate taxes on your payment, part of the PITI that we discussed. Repairs and maintenance, of course, you have to keep your house up, or it can just kind of fall apart in some ways if you're not paying attention to things that need to be done. And then PMI insurance, the private mortgage insurance. This you have to pay if you haven't paid a 20% down, and it adds to your monthly payment quite a bit. I don't really know the rates on that exactly, but it will add to your payment every month, and you have to continue to pay it until you get to the 80%. Then you have to see if you can get that removed, and it doesn't happen automatically. I'm very thankful I have the pause button when weird things happen and I have a blank page. And now we have the page back. We're going to use our TVM buttons on our calculator to compute the payment. So Joe bought a home in Arlington, Texas for $150,000. He put down 20% and obtained a mortgage for 30 years at 4.5%. What is Joe's monthly payment? What is the total interest cost of the loan? So we're going to figure total interest quite a bit, and I'm hoping by doing that you really get familiar with it. So 360 payments, I think you're going to get to where you just know that. All right. Our interest rate is 4.5%, so 4.5 divided by 12, and that is 0.375. Now, the present value is going to be 80% of the 150. So 150,000 times 0.8, and that amount is 120,000. So that means that was a $30,000 down payment. Our future value is 0, and then we compute the payment. So remember, put the number on the screen, push that register of your TVM keys, and then when you've got everything in, you can always go back and double check by using recall. Recall N, and it should say 360. Recall IY should say 0.375. Recall PV, and so on. Okay, so when we compute the payment, we get 608.02. All right, so that's a fairly nice payment. And then we're going to find the total interest, which just means we take 608.02 times 360, and we subtract the amount of the loan in the first place, so the amount of the mortgage, 218,887.20. We're going to subtract the $120,000 that we borrowed, and we end up with this amount, 98,887.20, and that is our total interest paid. And that's it for that problem. Here's our next one. We're going to compare two different loans. And then I have to be sure and write small down there as I'm figuring all of this. So first, we're going to go through and just put in everything. Now, on your calculators, you can leave some of the things the same between the two loans. It's $235,000. That will be the same for both loans, right? $235,000. So you can put that in and leave it, and you only have to change some of the things for the second one. Future value is 0. Now, the other categories will be different. So for the 30-year loan, we'll have 360 payments. For the 15-year loan, That's half that number of payments. It's just 15 times 12. And then our interest rates are different. So let's go ahead and calculate this first loan. So get everything put into your TVM register. This is 0.416, and that means all the sixes going across your screen. It's always best to calculate that and push your equals and then push IY so that you put that in that category. And then we can compute the payment for the 30-year loan, and that payment will be sure and put your negatives in there when you're filling out these charts, because I'd like you to just be thinking about that, because we're paying in the payment, right? So it goes in as negative. So $1,261.53 for that one. And then on the second loan, we will have to put in a different interest rate, and it was 3.5%. So 3.5 divided by 12, and that's going to be 0.216, 2916, which I left out the 916, and the 6 is repeating, so once again all the way across your screen. So put in a different interest rate, and then you can just compute your payment without taking everything out. So then when you compute your payment for this one, it is $1,679.97. Now you might have thought that was going to be double the amount, but it's not, due to the way principal and interest works. So what is that about? It's a little more than $400 more per month, but you're only paying for 15 years versus 30 years, and there can be a huge amount of savings on that whenever that happens. So let's just look at the 30-year interest. All right, so we're going to take the 30-year payment, which was $1,261.53 times 360. And that is $454,150.80. We're going to subtract the amount of our mortgage, which was $235,000. So interest on the 30-year loan is $219,150.80. Now I'm hoping that you're thinking about this, that it's going to be higher interest for the 30-year loan than the 15-year loan, because that is for sure always the case. So for the 15-year interest amount, we will take the payment amount of $1,679.97 times 180. So $394.60. Subtract the amount of our loan, mortgage, whatever you want to call it, and it's $67,394.60, which might be surprising how much you actually do save by cutting down the length of the loan. And even with a 30-year loan, if you start paying higher payments, you can cut the length of the loan, which also cuts a lot of your interest on that. The difference is going to be, right, if we take the 219 minus this one, we would save $151,756.20. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, wow, I could do a lot with that much money, right? And so something to think about whenever you are getting a mortgage. And you guys, most people are going to have a mortgage sometime in their life. You know, that's just kind of how that works. Okay, next. Okay, so this problem, I don't know. We'll start this problem and then we'll have to go to another video to finish up, I'm pretty sure, because it goes on for a while. Harriet is concerned about the financing of a home. She saw a small cottage that sells for $60,000 and she puts 20% down. what will her monthly payment be at 25 years, 6.5%, 25 years, 6%, 25 years, 5.5%, and 25 years, 5%. Now, one thing that you can do on this is keep the present value, the future value, and N will be the same for every one of these calculations. So that does save you time when you're filling this out. So 60,000 times 0.8, the complement, right? That's going to be how much she borrows, and it is 48,000. All right, so it must be a pretty small cottage, right, for $48,000. Okay, future value will be 0. N will be 300. We just take 25 times 12. And for A, the interest rate is 6.5. I always just change it to, 1/2 we know is 0.5. When we divide that, we get 0.5416. And the 6 is repeating, so you'll see it running all the way across your screen. Okay, now for each one of these, leave what you can in there. Of course, we have to change the interest each time, but we don't have to change the rest. We don't have to change N, PV, or future value, so you'll just want to work it that way. The payment is pretty nice, $324.10, right? And so that's how much at 6.5%. And we're just going to keep reducing that by 0.5%. I just want you to see this. Like, what happens? How much difference does 0.5% make? Okay, so one thing you can do that's kind of handy when you're going to leave something the same, we can do this, but you might want to write it in, on the next screen, just because we're going to move to another screen here, another slide here in a minute. But for this one, it's 6 divided by 12, and that happens to just be 0.5. So that's the part you change. Put that on your screen, press your IY key, and then we're going to compute the payment. And the payment for this one is going to go down because the interest rate went down. 309.26. So about $13 or so for the monthly payment. And that's over the life of the loan. So that's over 300 payments. That may not seem like very much, but that can add up. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And so we'll do part C and D on this. Remember, we're going to be at 300 for this, 0, and 48,000. Okay, and then I'm going to use the arrow on the same screen. So interest rate for part C is 5.5%. So we take 5.5 divided by 12 equals 0.4583. The 3 is repeating this time. And then we will compute the payment. So when you compute your payment, you end up with $294.76. So notice it's dropped again. The last time it was 309, and now we're down to 294. We're going to compute the last one here. The interest rate is 5%. And this one is 0.416. The 6 is repeating. Remember, pause and fill these out yourself and practice this, and so that you can check your work with mine. That's what you need to do when you're working these out. And then I get my payment amount of 280. Whoops, how about I put the 8 in there? 280.60. Okay, so we have some more that we're going to talk about for this on the next slide, and then we'll finish up the lesson on video 3.